Hello everybody, welcome to today's show. We will be talking about a lot of different stuff today. Here is our rundown. Number one, we're talking about the title topic of our show today. Guys, cops are liars. We gotta start realizing that, folks. Number two, they really don't care about anything, do they? Number three, hawk hunting. We're gonna go a little hawk hunting on today's show. Number four, election preview. We will of course, be having live coverage of the elections later tonight. I think about around 9, maybe 9:15, 9:30, because obviously the polls coming in is going to be very, very tight. Number four, I said that it was number four. Number five, we'll take a look at a great piece about the truth about Teddy by John Schwartz in The Intercept. And finally, number six, we're going to be talking about the organizations you can support in the wake of Juneteenth. So, yeah, I think that's very, very important for everybody to realize and go check out. But yeah, we do, of course, start at the top with number one on our rundown. Just get a little bit of a PSA. If you're not in New York, you might not have heard about this most recent Shake Shack incident. If you're not, though, because it's very, very easy to catch up on the main points. It all started last week when the NYPD, led by its police unions, said that 3 of its officers had been intentionally poisoned at a Shake Shack downtown in Manhattan. We were told that cops were vomiting, that they'd been hospitalized, and that there was bleach involved. Is anything more sacred than the Thin Blue Line? This is just awful. It broke my heart when I originally heard this. No, I immediately, because I am smart and wise and all-knowing, I immediately knew the truth about the story, and the truth was that it was completely BS. It was completely BS. I was like, I am not trying to be that kind of guy where like I'm right about everything and I know everything about everything, but there's no lie here. I swear on my mother that I looked at a story as I saw that and was like, oh, that's BS. That's totally BS. And it was complete and utter BS. An investigation quickly found that nothing untoward happened, and on Monday, the New York Post, of all places, reported the cops had never even been sick. They just made it up. What's more, the officers reportedly ordered their food through the Shake Shack app, meaning that there was no way that any nefarious employees could have known to send the poison the cops bat signal to their comrades in the first place. And I think you could get in a lot larger conversation about the ethics of, for example, a minimum wage worker who works many jobs, struggling to get by, especially an African American or black or brown minimum wage worker who probably the poor black and brown people are the interactions of some of the worst, are the targets on the worst interactions of with cops. They're most likely out of any group in this country to get kind of shit from the cops, whether it's physical, whether it's verbal, whether it's just harassing them and just being broadly unpleasant. Like if you were a poor minimum wage style worker, you work at one of these companies, and the cop, for example, on the way here, stopped you and made you wait late for work for a broken taillight or something stupid like that, and kind of harassed you about that, and then you saw another cop car coming, would you not want to do a little bit of mischievous things with the burger? That's again, the ethics of that I think are very debatable, but that's not even what happened here. This is not, that wasn't even the reality of the situation. They literally ordered it on the Shake Shack app. It's literally completely false in every single way. In other words, the cops, and especially their union leaders, lied about every single part of the story. And I guess except that their drinks tasted a little weird. So it is completely BS. And it is some of the most ridiculous statements that we've ever heard are these people, these union leaders that do nothing but scare the crap out of the rank and file cops of this country. And it's really a sin. The only real sin in the situation is what they're doing. They are actively making what is already a very dangerous job even more falsely dangerous, if you know what I'm saying. They're made every day based on what people like Pat Lynch and the New York SBA say. Everyone's out to get them behind every corner. When it's all obviously not all of it's false. There are criminals out there. Not many criminals that want to kill cops, but there are many, many criminals out there who are dangerous and could end up killing cops some way or another. But I mean, come on. The fact that you're an NYPD patrol officer and your union leader has you feared, this kind of person, this kind of persecution complex. This is I think a big factor in what we see when we see the deaths of people like George Floyd or the harassment of people, and the always quick, like really quick, kind of just desire to always just put the finger to the trigger right away. Like that's like you cannot be like you cannot seriously not tell me like that is what you see on a day-to-day basis with the way the cops conducting themselves a lot of these times. Like it's just very, very unfortunate. The PBA, which represents approximately 50,000 active and retired officers in New York, published and sent its members a statement last night, including a claim that a toxic substance had been placed in the officers' drinks. When the New York City police officers cannot even take a meal without coming under attack, it's clear that the environment in which we work has deteriorated to a critical level. So now what he's doing is, by making up this story, is having like normal rank and file officers who just are trying to like literally go home to their family safely at night. What you are doing is bringing more fear into their lives if you're doing this and you're perpetrating this propaganda. So I think the next time we see this, like, and the next time we see these people trying to make these kind of allegations, we got to take this with a grain of salt, like as a media, as a collective here. It was like collective when you're talking about the media, people like just blatantly like jumping on this, reporting it very, very seriously. And I did find on Twitter a great compilation put together by a very interesting guy who's always worth a good follow on Twitter, Timothy Burke, who put together a compilation of just all these people who are very much a like mainstream media, like big figures, straight news, like unquestionably straight news figures, coming out and saying, yeah, this is a true story. And like, think about, put yourself in the position of an NYPD officer. Like, you see this stuff and you're like, am I going to go, like, what, how am I going to eat meals now? But it was totally BS. It was all false. Like, take a look at this. Let's listen in to some of the compilation of some of this.
Bleach reportedly dumped in their drinks as anti-police sentiment hits a boiling point. Police in New York say 3 officers were intentionally poisoned by workers at a Shake Shack in Manhattan.
3 New York police officers are in the hospital tonight after drinking milkshakes believed to have been poisoned with bleach.
And it appears bleach was poured into their milkshake.
Police say 3 officers were poisoned by milkshakes at Shake Shack restaurant.
Good Morning America.
3 New York City police officers say they were poisoned at a Manhattan Shake Shack.
3 officers were intentionally poisoned by workers at a restaurant.
Officials say a foreign substance was placed in their drinks at a Shake Shack in Lower Manhattan.
Shake Shack employees poisoned 3 officers by pouring bleach into their milkshakes.
Intentionally poisoned at a Shake Shack.
And it believes this was intentional.
Intentionally poisoned.
Intentionally poisoned by 1 or more workers at the Shake Shack.
The officers were intentionally poisoned.
ABC 7 New York.
Were intentionally poisoned.
Intentionally poisoned.
ABC 10.
Feel emboldened to
NBC 4.
put chemicals into a police officer's food.
It's all over the place. It's all over the place, and none of it turned out to be true. What you're doing is it's spreading fear. It's spreading a lot of just chaos in people's lives and making them more and more scared to go to work when it's not even necessarily so. Yeah. The DA, which has a membership of around 20,000 in New York, which is another police union, went a step further, writing, apparently without evidence, on a June 15th statement and now deleted tweet by President Paul DiGiacomo. Tonight, 3 of our brothers in blue were intentionally poisoned by 1 or more workers at Shake Shack. The statement, which also includes the address of the Shake Shack in question, urges members to be more vigilant than ever and protect yourself and your fellow cops at all costs from vicious criminals who dislike us simply for the uniform that we wear. Again, complete, total BS. All of it. Yeah, when reading these details, you might think, wow, these cops are really stupid. And guess what? Also you may think these cops must think that we are really stupid. And guess what? They do. But can you really blame them when, to pick an example at random, so much of the media swallows even their most outlandish claims without even blinking an eye? Like, they're just like, yeah, okay, it's completely fine. This is an example of this. breaking news clip from a CBS
breaking
New York.
News, a possible hate crime against police is being investigated right now at a Shake Shack in downtown Manhattan.
And I mean, you want to come out and say like, oh, well, I think the police, like, you got to be safe. Like, if the police are like trusted figures in the community, they're supposed to go after like the firemen, like we don't trust politicians for everything they say, but like, the police are supposed to be keeping us safe. Like, the police are supposed to be the trusted figures you can always turn to in our society. And a lot of the country, I think, still, no, I mean, maybe I think the police protests that have been gone on as of late have definitely done something to break that. But the large portion of the country still views what the police says as like gospel, and we can't anymore. Like, we have to understand what it is like at the moment, the culture and the tension that has been there and has only gotten worse inside these police precincts of everyone's out to get us. We are the ones under attack. That's how they think. That's how they view the situation. Because they've really, what they've been able to do is kill black and brown people, kill poor people with relative impunity, with almost complete impunity for many, many years up until now. This is the moment, I think, where people really finally put their foot down and said, no, enough is enough. And like babies, like spoiled brats who have been told no, they don't know how to take it. The police, I think, are probably the biggest babies that we see in our society today. All they do, and the biggest brats also that we see in our society today, whatever word you want to use, I think it fits quite, like, whatever word, it works either way. Like, and it's something that you can't trust. Like, if you saw a whiny, pouty kid say, Justin hit me, would you believe them at face value? Of course you wouldn't. You know that kid is untrustworthy. He's a brat and he'll make stuff up. Now we have to, and I think it's kind of sad the state that it's come to. Now we have to view that with police. We have to take that with police. It would be one thing if this were some isolated incident, though, but it's an example of normally unimpeachable sources making a mistake. But cops lie all the time. Cops, including NYPD cops, have been lying throughout the uprising that exploded after George Floyd's murder. They even lied about George Floyd himself, as surveillance video was revealed, of course, after the arrest that showed that did not support police claims that Floyd was was resisting arrest. And NYPD cops have been incredibly dishonest, with the idea of outside agitators, for example. According to the NYPD, the protest on South Bronx this past Thursday was led by violent extremists intent on injuring police officers and destroying the community. But they have done this with no facts to back up their account. They've just portrayed local activists as completely scary outside agitators. Like, they do this stuff all the time. And they also do it about their food as well. We'll get to that in a minute. This is not some secret Antifa knowledge or some new pattern. It's a pretty well-established fact. Cops lie a lot. They lie all too often. And, of course, we saw, I think, a big part of what we see happening is the fact that it's spreading. Like, when I mentioned the cop out there who's like afraid to go get a meal, we literally saw the McMuffin cop and people literally had to believe it was fake. There was if you hadn't heard this, Stacey Talbert was a McMuffin cop, so she went viral on a video of herself after crying after a messed up McDonald's order prompted her to fear her food was being tampered with. And she, like, you really think she didn't see the news that happened just earlier that week about George Floyd? Sorry, not George Floyd. The situation in New York with the Shake Shack thing. Like, that's probably what she was going off of. And it was ridiculous. And the fact that the cops are babies and the fact that they have this big persecution complex that's growing and growing and growing is the fact that people are actually getting mad now. Well, it's really not helping matters. And this was kind of that persecution complex, that baby mentality that we see from cops all the time on steroids. She says, quote, it really had nothing to do with McDonald's and the food. That was just what triggered it. She said, this feeling we feel in law enforcement constantly. You're always looking. We're always arching our necks to make sure everything is safe, not just for you, but for everyone else. There are times I wish I could just be normal and not have to feel like that. Everyone completely lost the point except for law enforcement. We all feel that way, except I voiced it. So yeah, it apparently had nothing to do with McDonald's. And